in order to get into the mood of the 3 weeks, which are 3 weeks basically that have an increasing period from day to day until we come to the 9 days, which is more severe, and also the week of Tisha B'Av, the way it's outlined in the Talmud, in the Gemara, and in the Poskim, and the great religious authorities, which is a mood of mourning. It's very difficult for people in modern times to think about an event that happened thousands of years ago, namely the Churban of the second Beis HaMikdash, and of course the first Churban, which happened even longer than that. How to get in the mood of a feeling, a sense of loss, or something that is missing in our lives. I just would like to use an idea that the Netziv, the Gaon of Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin Zal, great Rosh Yeshiva and Rav of Volozhin, who mentioned in his commentary in Parsha Shmini, when it talks about the loss of Nadav v'Avihu, the sons of Aaron, who died in the presence of the entire congregation, the community of Israel, when they brought the ketoras, the incense, in a fashion that they weren't supposed to do that. So the expression there in the Torah is, the whole Beis Yisrael, Yifku es Asrefa Shesoraf Hashem. All of the house of Israel should weep, should mourn, really, the Srefa, this conflagration, or say this Holocaust that took place, that Hashem did, that what happened. So the Netziv explains, how is it possible for everybody to mourn in a very severe, sensitive manner of something, of somebody that really was not related to them, that might have been distant to them, might not even understand the circumstances of really what happened. So how can they have a feeling of empathy, of sympathy, with that act of feeling mourning? So he explains that everybody has certain problems in their life, or they've lost somebody, or they've lost precious things or items, no matter what it is, where they were severely touched. If they think of those things, that will help them to understand the loss that occurred before the entire congregation. So I would say the same thing, that everybody in their own lives who has lost people, unfortunately, that's part of the galgal, the wheel of life that turns. People are born, people exist, people pass away, and all of us have some connection with that. If we think of a loss in our own lives, of how it touched us, and we attach that to the time of the Churban, of the destruction of the Holy Temple, the dispersal of the Jewish people into diaspora, into exile, and so forth, we might get a feeling because of our own personal reactions when we remember that. In fact, somebody who might have grown up in a certain community at an early age, and later on visits that community 50 years later, and he sees that the whole community is gone, what happened to all the people, what happened to the homes, what happened to the buildings, what happened to his school, he feels deeply touched about that. So he could have a feeling for things that happened years ago, that during the time of the Churban, the destruction of Beis HaMikdash, look what the Jewish people had. This great, magnificent, holy Beis HaMikdash temple. There were hundreds of thousands of Jews that used to come there all the time, and now it's all gone. When you think of that in comparison to how a person lived his own life and lost all those things, he could feel that sense of loss, and he could actually participate in the most symbolic and active way in observing the laws of the 3 weeks, and especially in observing the fast days of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and also of Tisha B'Av, where the thrust of fast days always is introspection, examining oneself where your life is, of doing tshuva, of perhaps correcting things in one's own personal life, whether it's towards Hashem, towards the Almighty, or towards other people. One of the ways I personally find is moving me in that feeling of loss, because I remember as a very young person that when the Holocaust happened in Europe, and we were here, I was here in America, and later we found out what happened. That sense of horror and dread and all, I carry out today when I observe, especially the 3 weeks in on Tisha B'Av. I have a very large collection of Holocaust books of describe what happened, the disaster, the Churban, the destruction, the terrible events that took place in Europe, and I relate it to what took place in the last Churban, or whether it was the Roman destruction or the Babylonian. So that's one of the things that people should feel obligated. You can't just gloss over it. You have to remember it, and it should be a springboard of correcting one's life in a very positive and forward manner to live a better life. It should be a life not of Churban, it should be a life of binyan, that we should all merit, zeicha, to have a sense of merit and to live to the time that coming Mashiach and Shiabona Beis Hamikdash, that the Beis Hamikdash should be rebuilt, b'mheira b'yameinu.